Hi, before we get into today's topic, I want to explain why I chose this one to kick off Angel with a Switchblade. You see, a couple of months ago, I was hosting a podcast that had been running for about 2 years. And it was hosted on the Paranormal Network, and the show was named after a book that I loved as a kid. I'll talk more about that in a future episode. But by the end, the show had become something completely different from what I originally signed up for. It shifted into fear-based content, just regurgitating spooky videos from YouTube and TikTok and asking that stupid question, is it real or fake? Over and over again. No research, no depth, no actual conversation. I wanted to talk about real experiences and bigger questions. My co-host, on the other hand, wanted viral clips and recycled fear. And when I would try to speak up, when I would point out that something was clearly fake or there's no evidence, she'd start talking over me and try to, shut me up. So the last straw was a live episode about reptilian beings. She showed a clip and I knew it was fabricated. And I said so. She fired back with, well, that's your opinion. But it wasn't an opinion. I had facts to back it up. I was looking it up in real time. When it became clear that truth wasn't welcome, I just left the show. I clicked off live right in the middle of the broadcast. And then about a week later, I got a message from her saying that the network didn't want me back because I left mid-show and it hurt their numbers. I never even really heard from the network myself. So who knows? Who knows what the truth was, But honestly, it really didn't matter at that point. I was already done. That experience is what led me here to this. So this series is about reclaiming my voice and getting back to truth. No fear baiting, no algorithm chasing, just honest conversation about the weird, the spiritual, and the misunderstood. So I'm starting with the topic that I wasn't allowed to finish that night. So, hey, welcome to Angel with a Switchblade. My name is David Hansel, and I'm a spiritual medium. I had an NDE in 2015, and I'm someone who's seen things most people don't or won't talk about. So, let's talk about reptilian beings. Now, you've heard the theory that shape-shifting lizard creatures from another dimension secretly run the world, that they control the government and they infiltrate Hollywood, and they drink fear for breakfast and they blink sideways in grainy YouTube videos. But not everyone buys that story. And some of us have real experiences that suggest something very, very different. Now, the modern version of this theory got traction thanks to David Icke. He was a former BBC sports presenter who had what he described as a spiritual awakening in the early 90s, because we all know spiritual awakenings lead to conspiracies. Anyway, since then, he's written books and given lectures, claimed shape-shifting reptilian beings from the Alpha Draconis star system have infiltrated human society, posing as political leaders and celebrities. He laid out much of it in his 1999 book, The Biggest Secret. Now, whether you love him or hate him, this theory has inspired a huge following, and just as much criticism, really. Why? Well, because most of it can't be backed up with solid evidence. Let's think about it. If these beings are truly interdimensional, time-bending, hyper-intelligent shapeshifters, why would they waste time climbing the political ladder like a bad Netflix plotline? Wouldn't they just take over? See, if you got the tech to cloak yourself and control people's thoughts, you don't need to run for office. You don't need to worry about election cycles. That's where this theory really starts to unravel. And yet, I'm not here to totally dismiss the existence of reptile beings or all of his theories, because I've seen one. See, when I was 5, I had a moment that changed everything, and I still remember it to this day. My dad was carrying me down the hallway at my grandparents' house, and I was looking over his shoulder, and suddenly just everything stopped. And I don't mean like poetically. I mean, time literally just froze. Everything froze. Reality paused, and everything except me. That's when the being kind of stepped into the hallway. And he wasn't human, but I wasn't afraid. I didn't feel threatened. It was more like recognition, like something in me already knew. It's like, okay, you're here. He just stood there calm, still. No messages yet, no voice, just presence. And then he nodded as if to say, "You'll understand this later." And then he was gone. I never forgot that moment. It shaped how I see all of this. That being wasn't evil. He wasn't trying to control me. He wasn't wearing a human disguise. He just was. So when people say reptilian beings are here to enslave us, they're here to manipulate us or drink our fear, I have to ask, where in the F is the actual proof? All right, not viral TikToks, not jump scare documentaries. I want evidence, evidence, evidence. I've worked for years as a medium. I've encountered all kinds of energies and beings. Some beautiful, some not so beautiful, some strange, but not every non-human presence is a threat. And not every serpent is a villain. In fact, serpent-like beings appear in spiritual traditions all over the world. There's Quetzalcoatl. That's the feathered serpent, or that's the god of Mesoamerica. He's associated with light and knowledge and rebirth. And then in Hinduism, Hindu lore, there are the Nagas, and those are serpent entities who act as guardians or guides, and they're not monsters. Even the snake in the Garden of Eden, depending on how you read it, that serpent brought knowledge, not just temptation. So, why the fear? Here's what I think. It's because humans are wired to fear what we don't understand, and fear sells. It gets clicks, it builds followers, it grabs attention. But just because something's scary doesn't mean it's true. I'm not saying all reptilian stories are false, not at all. I'm saying we need to be more discerning. Not every tale passed around in conspiracy world is based on truth, and not every being that looks different is evil. What if some of them are just here just to observe? What if some are here to help? Maybe quietly, without recognition or control. What if the real problem isn't them? Maybe it's how we've been taught to react to anything than other. Because fear keeps us small. It clouds intuition and it disconnects us from what's actually going on. And I don't need you to believe my story or any other story, but if you had a moment like mine, one that didn't feel dark or scary, I want you to know you're not alone. You're not crazy. You just experienced something real that didn't fit the narrative. And maybe that's the point. So I'll leave you with this. Not all beings are here to harm us. Not all serpents are evil. And not every scary story is telling the truth. Sometimes the thing we're afraid of is just something we haven't understood yet. So, thanks for listening. And if this resonated with you, please leave a comment. And if you've had your own experience, especially one that goes against the scary stories, I'd love to hear it. Now I'll say, read David Icke's book and for yourself to see, how you perceive it. But in the meantime, stay curious, stay grounded, and stay open. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.